32 will now come to order. May I have the playing of the national anthem. Councilmember President Pro Tem Elizabeth Brown, would you please lead us in the pledge? This evening, Council is pleased to have seminarian Daniel Colby to lead us in prayer. Welcome to Council.
Yes, are you able to hear me, everybody?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. So we'll be for this council meeting today and guide all the council members and follow your holy will in our everyday lives.
We are having a hard time hearing seminarian Daniel Colby, so I'm just going to ask for a moment of silence as we reflect and come back from council, come back to council in chamber. And we have a moment of silence. Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, Favor, Weenie, Tyson, President Hart.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal?
So moved. Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, Favor, Weenie, Tyson, President Hart.
This week's communications received by the city clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published in the city bulletin. Are there any others to be read into the record? Are there any resolutions by members of council, starting with President Pro Tem?
Thank you, President Harden. Not at this time.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. Councilmember Mitch Brown. Councilmember Dorrance.
Nothing for me either. Thank you.
Councilmember Favor.
Nothing for me either.
Councilmember Remy.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. I have a few announcements this evening. The Council Residential Districting Commission is hard at work this summer to prepare the first round of maps for review early this fall. This week, there are 2 CRDC meetings. Tuesday, July 13th at 5:30, the Commission will meet for their first working session and receive a demonstration of the ESRI mapping tool, the software being used to create the districting maps. This meeting will take place in council chambers and is open to the public. We encourage interested residents to consider viewing online via CTV Channel 4 or YouTube. The CRDC will hold these weekly working sessions moving forward on Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. in council chambers through the end of August 21st. This is the only week it will occur on a Tuesday evening. This Wednesday, July 14th at 5:30, the commission will hold a community meeting at Heart of Ohio Family Health at Capitol Park, that's 2365 Ennis Road, to hear from members and representatives of the New American Immigrant and Refugee community. This meeting is open to the public and can also be viewed live on CTV Channel 4 or YouTube. For more information on the CRDC, please visit columbus.gov, Districting Commission, or email crdc@columbus.gov. Lastly, I will be holding virtual community hours on Thursday, July 22nd from 3:30 to 5 via WebEx. Everyone is welcome to attend. You can RSVP for the WebEx link with my legislative assistant, Lucy Frank, at lgfrank@columbus.gov by noon on July 22nd. Thank you, Council President. That is all I have this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson.
Yes, good evening. I have a resolution this evening, and I want to again thank you, and I want to recognize Jonathan Payne. And the first resolution is going to be, the resolution is 121X-2021. It's to honor, recognize, and celebrate Jonathan Payne and congratulate Mr. Payne on being selected as the first Amina Brenda Lynn Robinson resident artist in the city of Columbus. Whereas Memphis, Tennessee-based artist Jonathan Payne has been selected for the first Amina Brenda Lynn Robinson residency, one of two new programs created by the Columbus Museum of Art and the Greater Columbus Arts Council to support African-American professional visual artists and to honor the legacy of the beloved Columbus artists. Mr. Payne was selected out of 50 applicants from 24 states. Whereas the Amina Brenda Lynn Robinson residency has a national focus. It provides an African-American professional visual artist residing in the United States an opportunity to live and work in Ms. Robinson's restored home. Artists are also afforded a chance to devote time creating art within Mrs. Robinson's home studio. And whereas the 90-day residency includes a $15,000 award, lodging, studio access, This residency is the first and only program that's part of the Alliance of Artists Communities Network and set in the former home of a female African-American artist. The Alliance of Artists Communities is an international association of artist residencies, a diverse field of more than 1,500 programs worldwide that support artists in the development of new creative work. Whereas Amina Brenda Lynn Robinson was known for art inspired by the African concept of Sankofa. Understanding the past in order to go forward, she created sculpture, large complex work she called rag-on-nuns, rag paintings and paintings on cloth, drawings and books about her family and community. Her goal was to create art that fills the gaps of African and African-American history and encourages others to research and document the history of their families and communities for the next generation. She lived and worked in Columbus, Ohio until her death in 2015. And whereas Mr. Payne, now a Houston native, earned a bachelor's degree in art from Rhodes College and a master's of fine arts in painting and printmaking from Yale School of Art, he describes himself as a Southern African-American queer artist working in drawing, painting, printmaking, collage, and weaving. He engages with themes of self-concept, tribalism, mental health, and complexities of being a marginal identity, and works with the traditions of geometric abstraction, post-minimalist, and fiber sculpture. His work has been exhibited widely and includes, but is not limited to, New York City, Memphis, Los Angeles City, San Francisco, and New Haven, Connecticut. Whereas Mr. Payne plans to continue an ongoing series in his practice called constructions where he will create geometrically patterned collages and paintings out of shredded paper. He also plans to embark on a new series of large-scale abstract mixed media works, incorporating techniques that include hand sewing, collage, and stencil painting. He also plans to participate in community outreach activities and make a public exhibition during his time in Columbus. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this council does hereby honor, recognize, and celebrate Jonathan Payne and congratulate Mr. Payne on being selected as the first Amina Brenda Lynn Robinson resident artist in the city of Columbus. I now have accepting this resolution will be Jonathan Payne, and then Tom Katzenmeyer, President and CEO of the Greater Columbus Arts Council, and Nanette Macy-Jones, Executive Director of the Columbus Museum of Art.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman Tyson, for preparing and presenting this resolution. I'm Tom Katzenmeyer. I'm the CEO of the Greater Columbus Arts Council. I'm here with Nanette Macy-Jones and with Jonathan Payne. You're going to hear from them in a moment. We are very fortunate to live in a city that has such strong support from our city council for the arts. That's not lost on it, and I will thank you every time I am before you for that. We are delighted to have Jonathan here with us. As Priscilla mentioned, he has been all over the city. We've had him out at many events, and actually there's a big one coming up this Wednesday night that he's going to come to with me, and it's just great to celebrate this with him. This is a key collaboration between the Columbus Museum of Art and the Greater Columbus Arts Council. The residency and fellowship program are funded by Loanne Crane, so I want everyone to know that. We are very, very grateful for her. She has funded that 2 years in a row now. We also have a fellow in place. It's Don C. Coulter, who's been the Amina Fellow for the past year. Jonathan is the resident, and he is staying in Amina Robinson's home, which has been redone with funds from the Columbus Foundation. And this is just so wonderful. We're so excited for Nanette and I to get to work together on this. The museum owns and controls Amina's estate, including the home and all of her work. And we have the ability to fund the fellowship and the residency program. So with that, I'm going to ask Nanette Macy-Jones, the Executive Director of the Columbus Museum of Art, to come up and say a few words and then introduce Jonathan. Thank you.
This is weird. How are you all? No, thank you. I wanted to add my thanks as well. The museum is greatly honored to have known Amina Robinson for nearly 7 decades. She first walked through the doors of the museum when she was still a teenager. And she would tell that story again and again about that first encounter with the museum. But it was a relationship that grew over time. And we're honored that she wanted us to be part of helping with her legacy and how we connect that legacy not only to future generations in Columbus, but future generations around the globe. This community meant the world to Amina, and I know she means the world to all of us. And so we're just extraordinarily honored that her home and studio. Someone wrote very recently, I'm going to read this so I get it right, that Amina saw no separation existed between home and studio or between person and artist, so that the environment that she created in her home studio became an extension of herself. We're now really excited to be able to share that space with another generation of artists. And Jonathan is the beginning of what I hope is an incredible tradition for this community and something that really sets Columbus apart. And I think Amina would be proud. Jonathan?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jonathan Payne. I just want to say thank you all so much for this really warm welcome, and Councilwoman Tyson, thank you so much for reading that beautiful introduction. I'm truly honored to be here in Columbus and to be the inaugural recipient of the Amina residency, and to to see Black artistic production, queer artistic production, art production made by women, and contributions to the arts made by Black women in particular, being honored by the Columbus City Council and by the city, by the Columbus Museum of Art. It's incredibly important, and it really speaks volumes to the social and cultural value that you see in the work that artists of those identities make. And so, yeah, I can't even thank Amina enough in allowing me permission, both in spirit and in the physical manifestations of her that remain in her home and at the museum. Thanking her for allowing me to stay in her house and to work in her home. It's a really extraordinary privilege, and it's unlike any residency experience I've ever had. So I'll just kind of leave it there. I'm a little low energy because I just flew from Memphis today, but I really want to express just the immense gratitude that I feel and how welcomed and supported I've felt here in the 7 weeks that I've been here. It's truly phenomenal. So thank you all so much, and thank you so much for what you do for the city.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Nanette. And I know that I think Deidre Hamler is here, and just want to appreciate and the team that helped, who've worked on Amina's home and to prepare for the residency. I just want to say thank you. This is really a special resolution for me also, because I grew up in the neighborhood where Amina Robinson lived, and she only lived like 3 doors down from me. And so I got to see her pretty frequently and just really appreciate her and what she's done for this community, but what she's done for other artists. And also just want to thank the Shepherd community for welcoming Jonathan to the community and being out, coming into the community and being very visible. So thank you very much. And we will make sure that we hand you the resolution since you're not in this particular room. But again, I need to move for adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Adopted.
Thank you. I also just have really an announcement that I need to make in regards to our vaccines. And I know Dr. Roberts is here and would like to ask her to say a few words. But we are now, their walk-in COVID vaccines are available at Columbus Public Health Monday through Friday from 9 to 4. And we now have the $100 Vax Cash, which is offered to Franklin County residents getting their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine at the clinic while supplies last. We're offering the first dose of the 2-dose Pfizer vaccine for 12 and up, and the 1-dose Johnson & Johnson. If you're under the age of 18, you must have a parent with you. But also we have the satellite vaccine clinics. Again, the $100 Vax Cash will be offered to those residents from July 6th through August the 16th. And today we're at Linden Community Center. We're also at the William H. Adams, and then this is every week. So Tuesdays, the Far East Community Center and the Ethiopian Tawahedo Social Services. On Wednesday, Bear Community Center and the Somali Community Association of Ohio. On Thursday, Sullivan Gardens Community Center and the Bhutanese Community of Central Ohio. And on Friday, Westgate Community Center and St. Stephen the Martyr Church. I am going to ask Dr. Mashika Roberts to make some comments regarding the success of this vaccine program. Dr. Roberts?
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson, and good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. hearing a little bit of feedback, but I'll keep moving forward. Last week on Tuesday, Columbus Public Health launched our Vax for Cash Card program, which is aimed at really trying to improve vaccination rates in our minority and low-income communities. When we look across the state and specifically here in Franklin County, about 46% of county residents have been fully vaccinated, meaning they're 2 weeks out from receiving either both doses of Pfizer or Moderna or getting the single dose of Johnson & Johnson. If we look at Franklin County data, 51% of the population has started the vaccine process. So approximately 50% of our population is vaccinated, much lower than we want it to be. We mirror what the state's average is, but I will say there are some counties within the state of Ohio that have higher vaccination rates than Franklin County. And some of those are our neighboring counties like Delaware County. In an effort to really improve our vaccination rates here in Columbus, we started the Vax for Cash Card program. And it was really driven by looking at our neighborhood-based data, our zip code data that is supplied to us from Ohio Department of Health, of which zip codes, which areas of town do we have lower vaccine uptake. And what was really concerning is when we look at our high social vulnerability neighborhoods compared to our low social vulnerability neighborhoods, the gap between vaccine acceptance or vaccination rate has actually increased throughout the pandemic and as vaccine has become more available. Just to put that in perspective, our high social vulnerable neighborhoods, which are more at risk, back in March of 2021, their vaccine uptake was 13%. Our low socially vulnerable neighborhoods, their vaccine uptake in March was 25%. That's a gap between those two groups of 12%. Fast forward to July of 2021, both of the groups increased their vaccine uptake. Our high social vulnerable groups went from 13% to 39.9%, almost 40%. Our low social vulnerable neighborhoods went from 25% all the way up to 61%. So they both increased, but the gap between those two groups increased versus decreasing. It went from a 12% gap to a 21.6% gap. So meaning as the vaccines became more readily available in our community, more people in our less vulnerable neighborhoods rolled up their sleeves and got the vaccine than did in our more vulnerable neighborhoods. If you recall, these were the same people early in the pandemic who were forced to go to work, could not work from home, and did not have the appropriate barriers in place, and subsequently were hospitalized and even lost their lives to COVID-19. It's vitally important that we get those individuals vaccinated now. Last week, when we launched the Vax for Cash Card program, it's very simple. Come to either Columbus Public Health or one of our 10 locations that are held in the neighborhoods where these individuals live. Choose to get vaccinated, whether you get the Pfizer or Johnson & Johnson, you get a $100 Visa gift card right on site after you get your vaccine. You can do whatever you want with your $100. Last week, we saw 943 people who came to get their first dose of vaccine at one of these clinics during the first week. That increased, and Councilmember Tyson, this is a bit of updated data compared to what I shared with you earlier today. That increased our vaccine uptake 288% in 1 week. We had seen the last 3 consecutive weeks our vaccine uptake decreasing. And last week we went up almost 300% with our Vax for Cash Card program. Don't know if that's beginner's luck for the first week, but I don't think it is, because today we're in Linden and at our health department, we already surpassed what we had been doing prior to our Vax for Cash Card. So we think it's working, and it's helping our vulnerable community get vaccinated. They get to pick between Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson. What's also very interesting is prior to the Vax for Cash Card program, we were seeing about 75% of those who came to get vaccinated getting Pfizer and about 25% getting Johnson & Johnson. And when we started this Vax for Cash Card, it's about 50-50. we're getting more people who are getting the Johnson & Johnson. And what they tell us is they just want one dose. They don't want to have to come back. No matter which vaccine they pick versus the Pfizer or the Johnson & Johnson, they are all getting a $100 Vax card or cash card. So it's a success. We like to keep it going. We are planning to be at these 10 remote locations until August 13th, and we will continue to offer the vaccine cards until that time or until supplies last. We do have a limited budget, and so when we have distributed all of our vaccine cash cards, we will have to wrap up that part of the program, but we will still be in the neighborhoods providing this service to everyone. Any questions for me, Councilmember Tyson?
No, thank you, Dr. Roberts. And again, this is such important work because we want to try to get as close as we can to herd immunity in our community. And by giving 943 individuals came and got these vaccines last week, and just compared to the previous week, as you just stated. So we also know that individuals who are in our kind of vulnerable neighborhoods have different needs. And so as we talked about this earlier, it may mean that getting the vaccine, some people have become ill right after the vaccine, and it's important if they have to take a day off work because of that gift card, those dollars will help to support them and their family. So again, this is really an important tool, one of the tools in our toolbox to be able to help us to move our community forward in terms of overall health. So I thank you and your team for the work that they're doing. And again, I'm sure more people will continue to get these vaccines. So thank you very much for sharing that data today.
You're welcome.
And that's all I have on my committee, Council President Harden.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. I just have one announcement. Obviously, for the first time since March 2020, all council members are in person in chambers. This is due in part to changes in state law regarding public meetings. While members and some staff will be in chambers, Columbus continues to be cautious due to COVID-19. Based on guidance from Columbus Public Health and the HR Department, public seating in chambers will be limited with additional seating in adjacent conference rooms. Council will continue to offer virtual online testimony to residents on regular agenda items except zonings. Zonings require sworn testimony and therefore must be done in person. Returning in a limited capacity and adhering to current social distancing and masking guidelines is an incremental return to our normalcy. And please hang with us as we figure this quasi technology out. Are there any comments from our elected officials, our city auditor, our city attorney, or any judges that are with us?
No, thank you, President Harden.
Thank you, Judge Barrows. Are there any requests by members of council for the removal of an ordinance or a resolution from the consent portion of action of the agenda? Seeing none, may we have a motion to waive the reading of titles of third-day legislation on tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorance, Faber, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance numbers of third-day legislation on tonight's agenda?
Finance Committee, 1667-2021. Recreation and Parks Committee, Ordinance 1183-2021. Education Committee, Ordinances 1408 and 1685-2021. Public Safety Committee, Ordinances 1706 and 1745-2021. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinances 150, 1489, 1540, 1628, 1630, 1636, 1640, 1643, 1646, 1648, 1651, 1655, 1664, 1666, 1681, 1684, 1692, 1732, 1751, 1753, 1761, 1783, 1795, 1799, 1805, 1806, 1807, 1808, and 1817-2021. Public Service and Transportation Committee, Ordinances 1730, 1793, 1860-2021. Economic Development Committee, Ordinances 1562, 1781-2021. Zoning Committee, Ordinances 1812, 1813, 1814, 1816, 1864, 1865, 1866, 1885, 1889, 1890, 465, 1053, 2021.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Seeing we don't have any speakers on the first reading, the following ordinances appear on our agenda as consent action. Will the clerk now read those ordinance numbers into the record, please?
Resolutions of expression 117X, 120X-2021, Finance Committee, ordinances 1582, 1632, 1714, 1715, 1716, 1721, 1750, 1764, 1770, 1804, 1821, 1884, 1939-2021. Recreation and Parks Committee, ordinances 1358, 1673-2021. Public Safety Committee, ordinances 1731, 1780-2021, Veterans and Senior Affairs Committee, ordinance 1277-2021, Public Utilities Committee, ordinances 1244, 1522, 1543, 1555, 1602, 1607, 1615, 1727, 1755, 1873-2021, Technology Committee, ordinances 1588, 1617, 1661, and 1712-2021. Public Service Transportation Committee, Resolution 112X-2021, ordinances 1328, 1372, 1571, 1627, 1635, 1639, 1658, 1659, 1671, 1686, 1687, 1723, 1725, 1728, 1729, 1735, 1762, 1784, 1786, 1794, 1796, 1798, 1801, 1835, and 1886-2021. Housing Committee, ordinances 1822, 1823, 1824, 1825, 1826, 1827, 1828, 1829, 1830, 1831, 1836, 1837, 1838, and 1842-2021. Criminal Justice and Judiciary Committee, ordinances 1268 and 1815-2021. Economic Development Committee, ordinance 1650 and 1776-2021. Appointments from the Mayor's Office, numbered A0142, 149, 150, 151, 152, 153, 154, 155, 156, 157, 158, 159, 160, 161, 162, 163, 164, 165, 166, 169, and 170-2021.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Are there any questions or comments about the consent portion of the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve these items as consent?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Ms. Brown,
Yes, with the exception of 1277-2021, on which I'm abstaining.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Dorrance,
Yes.
Favor,
Yes.
Mr. Remy,
Yes.
Ms. Tyson,
Yes.
President Harden.
Yes, consent portion of the agenda passes. We'll now proceed with the second reading of 30-day tabled emergency legislation. The first committee is the Finance Committee. President Pro Tem chairs that committee. President Pro Tem, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Council President. In Finance this evening, we have Ordinance 1538-2021 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management on behalf of the Fleet Management Division to enter into contract with Asset Works LLC, a subsidiary of Trafficking Software Group Incorporated, for fleet management software, hardware, and related services, to authorize the expenditure of $829,400 from the Fleet Management Operating Fund, to authorize a waiver of relevant provisions of Chapter 320 of the Columbus City Codes, and to declare an emergency. Fleet Management currently uses the services provided by Asset Works, including maintenance and support for a software platform that provides integrated management, analysis, and tracking capabilities for fleet, fuel, and GPS databases. The services also include a management system to bill, monitor, and analyze all fleet maintenance related data for the city's 6,000 vehicles. This contract renews the current services through June 30th, 22, with the option to renew again while updating the terms and conditions to streamline the contract and to add disentanglement language. A waiver of competitive bidding is being considered to continue these critical services with the existing provider while the city competitively selects a fleet software provider through a best value procurement currently in process. This process is expected to be completed in 2023. In addition to ensuring continuity of fleet operations, this contract contains cost savings over previous years with updated terms and conditions to reflect upgraded services. Emergency action is being considered to ensure that services continue without interruption. If there are no questions, seeing none, because I can see all of you now, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President. And the next two ordinances, Councilmember Tyson will read.
Thank you. I have ordinance number 1539-2021 to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget and to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to enter into a contract on behalf of the Office of Construction Management with Psip Solutions LLC for the professional owners representation services for the design and construction of a new municipal court building, and to authorize the transfer of $6,080,300 within the Construction Management Capital Improvement Fund, and to authorize the expenditure of $6,080,300 from the Construction Management Capital Improvement Fund, and to declare an emergency. This project is for an owner representative to assist the City of Columbus to ensure that the design requirements of the city are adhered to during all phases of the programming, design, and construction of a new municipal court building. The owner representative will assist in the procurement of an architectural engineering firm as well as a construction contractor. The owner representative will help coordinate programming and design between the architectural team and the agencies that will be housed in the new municipal court building, including the municipal court judges, the city attorney, municipal court clerk, and facilitate the needs for technology, security, and other applicable facility needs. Additionally, in conjunction with the architectural team, the owner's representative will be involved in the construction oversight to confirm that all aspects of the construction follow the contract documents and standard construction practices throughout the duration of the project. Let's see. And I don't know if Director Lombardi wants to make any comments regarding this legislation. If not, I mean, I also know Judge Paley is here on WebEx, but Director Lombardi, do you want to make any comments on this?
Sure. Thank you, President Harden, Council Member Tyson, and other members of Council. This has been a long time coming. We've been discussing a new courthouse for at least 3 years. This is the next step in getting us closer to that goal of building a new courthouse. Psip will work directly with our team to ensure that all phases of the construction and engineering are adhered to, and they're basically the eyes and ears of the Department of Finance and Management on the project throughout the term of this project. And we look forward to working with their team and building a relationship with them as we go along.
Thank you, Director. And this, I'm sorry. And this project was formally advertised on vendor services on May 19th of 2021. The city received 4 responses, and all proposals were deemed responsive or fully evaluated by the committee. And the Psip Solutions company was a company that we're discussing today. So thank you, Director, and they received the highest score by the evaluation committee. I think I now would like to ask Judge Paley, who will want to share some comments regarding this legislation. Judge Paley.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. I just want to thank Mr. Lombardi, City Council, for all their help in getting this moving forward. We're thrilled to have the Psip company on board. They did work with the Common Pleas Court on the development of their courthouse, so they do have experience in that area. We are just excited to get this process started for everyone in the courthouse, and more importantly, for the community and all the projects that we have going on for the community at the courthouse. So again, we just wanted to thank you for moving this legislation forward and getting our new courthouse started. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge Paley. And certainly I can remember when you were here and and then you went to the courthouse. So we certainly, the next piece of legislation will follow up on this piece, but certainly all the issues and concerns that we had with the courthouse, and that this will be, and that there was a need for the courthouse as opposed to a new courthouse, as opposed to continue to repair the one that you're in. So thank you for being here and testifying. And this is certainly well deserved and well needed. Thank you. So if there's no questions or comments, I move for passage by voice vote.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Abstain?
Yes.
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 Yes, ordinance pass.
Thank you. The next ordinance is ordinance 1541-2021. It is to authorize the Director of the Department of Finance and Management to enter into a real estate purchase contract with the Franklin County Board of Commissioners that outlines the mutually agreed terms for the purchase of the Carnes Building and the Dorian Commons Park located at 410 South High Street, Columbus, Ohio, for the future construction of a new building to house the Franklin County Municipal Court and city offices associated with the court, and to declare an emergency. Again, this legislation authorizes the Director of the Department of Finance and Management to enter into a real estate purchase contract with the Franklin County Board of Commissioners that outlines the agreed terms for the purchase of the 410 South High Street. The city, pursuant to Ordinance 0726-2021, entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Franklin County Board of Commissioners on March the 24th, outlined the terms of the contract, and the parties now desire to enter into the contract. Pursuant to the MOU, the city and the county intend to enter in the contract within 90 days of executing the MOU. The city will acquire the site for future construction of the new facility to house operations of the Franklin County Municipal Court and the municipal clerk and other city offices affiliated with the court. If there are no questions or comments, I first want to remove this from the table by voice.
Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Ms. Brown?
Abstain?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Doran?
Yes.
Ms. Faber?
Yes.
Mr. Remy?
Yes.
Ms. Tyson?
Yes.
President Harden?
Yes, remove from the table.
Thank you. And now I move for passage by voice.
Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Ms. Brown?
Abstain?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Doran?
Yes.
Ms. Faber?
Yes.
Mr. Remy?
Yes.
Ms. Tyson?
Yes.
Ordinance is passed. Yes.
Thank you. And now I will turn the committee back over to President Pro Tem Elizabeth Brown. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. Next is Ordinance 1549-2021 to authorize the Finance and Management Director to establish purchase orders with SA Communal Company Incorporated for annual smoke and fire alarm testing, inspection, and repair, as well as sprinkler inspections, fire pump testing, and fire suppression testing for the Facilities Management Division in accordance with the terms and conditions of the State of Ohio Master Maintenance Agreement, to waive the formal bidding requirements of the City Codes Chapter 329, to authorize the expenditure of $167,000 from the general fund, and to declare an emergency. The ordinance authorizes city agencies to participate in the Ohio Department of Administrative Services cooperative contracts like this one. The State of Ohio Master Maintenance Agreement with SA Communal expires in 2022. A waiver of competitive bidding is being considered to continue these critical fire inspection services under the State of Ohio Master Maintenance Agreement while the city competitively selects a provider through a best value procurement. Emergency actions being considered to ensure that these services are not interrupted. If there are no questions, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Next is ordinance 1662-2021 to authorize the city auditor to enter into an agreement along with the auditor of the state of Ohio and Plant Moran for professional auditing services for calendar year 2021 to waive competitive bidding to authorize the expenditure of up to $424,592 from the general fund and to declare an emergency. All political subdivisions in Ohio are required to be audited by the state auditor. Under the Single Audit Act of 1996, all federal grants can be covered via one comprehensive audit. The state and city have agreed that the most appropriate way to meet these state and federal requirements is to engage an independent public accounting firm to conduct an audit of the city's accounting needs. Through the state's competitive bidding process, the city contracted with Plant Moran from 2012 through 2016 to perform this work, which was extended for 1 year into 2017. And the state auditor recommended the city extend that contract again through 2021, subject to annual authorization by City Council, which we're considering via this ordinance. The auditor's office notes that 15% of this contract will be subcontracted to a minority firm of certified public accountants, which has been a subcontracting requirement in the city's audit since 1985. Emergency action is being considered to avoid delays and to allow the auditor's office to meet their requirements for a timely audit. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next is 1891 to authorize and direct the city auditor to transfer $1 million within the general fund from the Department of Finance and Management to the Department of the Inspector General and to declare an emergency. Last November, Columbus voters overwhelmingly approved the creation of a civilian police review board and a Department of the Inspector General for the Columbus Division of Police. The funds being transferred by this ordinance will support the operations of the Department of the Inspector General. This funding will help create greater independent oversight of the Division of Police, which is a critical step towards improving public trust. Emergency action is being considered to allow the department to be staffed and to begin its work as soon as possible. Are there any comments or questions from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
That is all I have in finance. May I move to Recreation and Parks? First, in Recreation and Parks, we have Ordinance 1553-2021 to authorize the Director of Recreation and Parks to make financial assistance available and enter into grant agreements with Columbus area 501c3 nonprofit organizations to provide programming to youth in Central Ohio, to authorize the city auditor to establish a certificate in the amount of $4,200,000, to authorize the transfer of $285,850 from the general fund to the Recreation and Parks operating fund, to authorize the appropriation of $4 million within the Recreation and Parks operating fund, to authorize the expenditure of $200,000 from the recovery fund, to authorize the expenditure of $4 million from the Recreation and Parks operating fund, and to declare an emergency. Recognizing that many local nonprofits have suffered economic repercussions due to COVID-19 and may not have the same capacity to serve youth in our community, these grants are being leveraged to extend access to positive programming through trusted community partners for as many families as possible. These grants are being provided through American Rescue Plan funds with awards for local nonprofits ranging from $5,000 to $250,000. And these dollars will support the mission of Columbus Recreation and Parks by providing and expanding diverse, inclusive, and affordable programming opportunities that address educational disparities and promote healthy environments for youth in Columbus. Columbus Rec and Parks ran a request for grant proposals process, which closed on Friday. The department will be reviewing applications and determining awards in the coming weeks. The past 18 months have been extremely difficult for every family in our community, and the cracks in our support systems that were always there were made substantially worse. We must continue to do whatever we can to support every family in every neighborhood, and these grants continue to prioritize that work. Emergency action is being considered so that the program can be implemented as soon as possible in accordance with the grant application process. If there are no questions, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
And that's all I have in my committees.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Public Safety Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Mitch Brown. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. This evening, I have several ordinances in the Public Safety Committee. Ordinance 1037-2021 to authorize the Director of the Department of Public Safety to enter into a contract with Performance Consulting Services to train recruits and cadets, to authorize the expenditure of $64,050 from the general fund, to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Codes, and to declare an emergency. This evening, we have Deputy Director Speaks to speak to the issue of bid waiver. Director Speaks.
Thank you, Chairman Brown, members of council. This contractor is simply excellent. They've had significant prior experience training our police cadets on diversity and cultural issues. As this consultant has the requisite experience and has the capacity, we respectfully request you to waive this bid so that we are able to fill this urgent need.
Thank you, Director Speaks. If there are no questions, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, I have a package of ordinances focused on addressing the issue of human trafficking within our community. Ohio continues to have the 5th highest number of human trafficking cases annually. This forced labor industry affects thousands of victims across Ohio and hundreds across Columbus. Most of these victims are coerced into this industry as children are assaulted repeatedly by the traffickers and buyers that purchase them for their amusement. The average lifespan for a victim from the moment they begin being trafficked is about 7 years. As victims suffer under this exploitation, residents in our neighborhoods continue to express frustration about the buyers who drive through the neighborhoods looking to purchase sex. We as a community cannot continue to accept this reality. We address this issue with enforcement focused on traffickers and buyers while ensuring victims have the support they need to survive and ultimately exit this dangerous industry. Throughout the examination of this issue of human trafficking in our community, we identified a desperate need for additional community services to support victims. As a result, Council developed the Support for Victims of Human Trafficking grant program. The legislation I'm about to read is the distribution of nearly $469,357 in grants to community organizations committed to providing shelter, medical treatment, connections to addiction rehabilitation, and counseling services to victims of human trafficking. The safe spaces created by these organizations are vital to our efforts to provide victims with the support they need to exit this dangerous and exploitative industry. Ordinance 1905-2021 to authorize the Director of Development to execute a grant agreement with the Salvation Army in the amount of up to $147,535 to provide direct outreach services to victims of human trafficking, to authorize the appropriation of up to $147,535 within the General Fund Reimagine Safety Subfund, to authorize the transfer of funds between subfunds and departments within the General Fund, to authorize the appropriation expenditure of up to $147,535 within the General Fund, and to declare an emergency. If there are no questions from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Ordinance 1906-2021 to authorize the Director of Development to execute a grant agreement with Sanctuary Collective in the amount of up to $103,000 to provide direct outreach services to victims of human trafficking, to authorize the appropriation of up to $103,000 within the General Fund Reimagining Safety Subfund, to authorize the transfer of funds between subfunds and departments in the General Fund, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of up to $103,000 within the General Fund, and to declare an emergency. Again, if there are no comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Also, I have ordinance 1907, 2021 to authorize the Director of Development to execute a grant agreement with One Divine Line to Health in an amount of up to $133,220 to provide direct outreach services to victims of human trafficking, to authorize the appropriation of up to $133,220 within the General Fund Reimagining Safety Subfund, to authorize the transfer of funds between subfunds and the departments within the general fund, to authorize again the appropriation and expenditure of up to $133,220 from the general fund, and to declare an emergency. I have one speaker who has signed up on this legislation, Mr. Joe Motil. Mr. Motil, are you available? Hey, Joe.
Good evening. Joe Motel, 167 West Cook Road, Columbus, Ohio. President Harden, Pro Tem Brown, members of City Council. As a personal friend and supporter of Esther Flores and her One Divine Health nonprofit organization with its new drop-in love center, their mobile love bugs, as she calls them, she and her volunteers are really doing an incredible job of assisting destitute people who need care and support. Her street sisters, as she calls them, who are impacted by human trafficking and others, now know that they have a friend and someone who they can trust, who genuinely cares about their livelihoods, isn't far away. I honestly believe that her approach in addressing human trafficking and the ills that are interconnected to this issue has already proven to be successful, and the city would be wise to continue to expand funding on this type of concept and extend this approach to other parts of the city. I want to thank Public Safety Committee Chair, Council Mitchell Brown, Councilwoman Priscilla Tyson, whom I have approached in the past about providing funding for One Divine Line to Health. And I also know that Councilwoman Brown is also very familiar with and supportive of Esther's organization, and all of you for recognizing the importance and impact of this organization and that it is having and what it is doing to help improve the quality of life of the West Side. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Motil. If there are no questions from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Before I move for passage, Councilmember Brown, I just want to thank you for moving this legislation forward. I mean, the whole package forward. It's so important, not only, for any individual that's human trafficked to be able to find the resources in their community to be able to change, hopefully be able to change their overall quality of life. And it would not be able to happen without legislation just like this and these organizations focusing on the individuals who are human trafficked. So thank you for this package, and I move for passage. I second. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President.
Passed.
Also, I have ordinance 1908, 2021 to authorize the Director of Development to execute a grant agreement with She Has a Name in an amount of up to $25,000 to provide direct outreach services to victims of human trafficking, to authorize the appropriation of up to $25,000 within the General Fund Reimagining Safety Subfund, to authorize the transfer of funds between subfunds and departments within the General Fund, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of up to $25,000 within the General Fund. Again, if there are no questions from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President.
Passed.
Also, the final ordinance is ordinance 1909, 2021 to authorize the Director of Development to execute a grant agreement with Frontline Response doing business as Out of Darkness in an amount of up to $60,602 to provide direct outreach services to victims of human trafficking, to authorize the appropriation of up to $60,602 within the General Fund Reimagining Safety Subfund, to authorize the transfer of funds between subfunds and the departments within the General Fund, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of up to $60,602 within the General Fund, and to declare an emergency. If there are no questions from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President.
Passed.
Council President, may I move on to Veterans and Senior Affairs?
Please.
Thank you, sir. I have ordinance 1173-2021 to authorize and direct the Central Ohio Area Agency on Aging to accept grant funds from the Ohio Department of Aging in the amount of $749,691 and any additional funds in connection with the Older Americans Act Title III Congregate and Home Delivered Meals, to authorize the appropriation of $749,691 and any additional funds to authorize the Director of Recreation and Parks to enter into contracts with the providers listed in the attachment, to authorize the expenditure of $674,722 from the Recreation and Parks Grant Fund and to declare an emergency. First, I'd like to remove it from the table, and I ask for a voice vote.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Brown?
Abstain.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Doran?
Yes.
Ms. Favor?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Tyson?
Yes.
President Hart?
Yes, remove from the table.
And now I'd like to move for passage.
Second.
And again for a voice vote.
Clerk, please call the roll by voice.
Ms. Brown?
Abstain.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Doran?
Yes.
Ms. Favor?
Yes.
Mr. Green?
Yes.
Ms. Tyson?
Yes.
President Hart?
Yes, ordinance is passed.
President Harden, may I also move to rules and reference, sir?
Please.
Thank you. This evening, I have ordinance 11663-2021 to amend the chapter 2307 of the Columbus City Codes with new provisions regarding human trafficking and sexual exploitation. While I firmly believe the grants passed earlier are necessary to support the victims of human trafficking in our community, these one-time awards are only part of the solution. I believe my final piece of legislation tonight has the opportunity to effectively address this issue holistically through enforcement and long-term access to funding of victims' services. I support this legislation, but we need to ensure it meets the requirements of law enforcement, city prosecutors, and the Franklin County Municipal Court, as well as the expectations of this council. Therefore, I'm moving to table this legislation until September 20th to allow for further discussion. If there are no questions from my colleagues, I move the table until September 20th.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, Tyson, President Hart?
Table to 9/20/21.
That's all I have, sir, this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Public Utilities Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Dorans. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President. Tonight in Public Utilities Committee, we have ordinance number 1493-2021 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to modify the contract with Decker Construction Company for utility cut restoration services for the Department of Public Utilities, and to authorize the expenditure of $950,000 from the Water Operating Fund, $450,000 from the Sanitary Sewer Operating Fund, and $80,000 from the Power Operating Fund. This restoration work typically occurs involving repair of existing pavement, curbs, and sidewalks. The department routinely outsources this restoration work to a contractor that is equipped and trained to make these types of repairs. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, Tyson, President Hart?
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance number 1569-2021 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to renew the professional engineering and services agreement with Hill International, Inc. for the Professional Construction Management 2020 project for the Division of Water, to authorize the transfer and expenditure of up to $6,826,100 within the Water General Obligation Bond Fund, and to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget. This professional construction management contract will support various projects in the Division of Water's capital program. The current consultant has already provided both design phase and construction phase services for the projects assigned to the contract. These projects will maintain and upgrade drinking water supply and treatment facilities to provide safe and reliable drinking water to all of our customers here in Central Ohio. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, Tyson, President Hart?
Passed.
Next, we have ordinance number 1570-2021 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a contract with Hatch Associates Consultants, Inc. for professional engineering services for the large diameter condition assessment project, Phase 2, for the Division of Sewerage and Drainage Stormwater Section, to authorize a transfer and expenditure in the amount of up to $1,368,761.76 within the Storm Sewer Bond Fund and to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget. This project will enable the city to systematically inspect and rehabilitate in large diameter storm sewer infrastructure. Inspection and assessment work is anticipated to begin in September of 2021, with the completion of the study to occur in March of 2023. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, we have ordinance 1596-2021 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter a construction contract with Cocosin Industrial Inc. for the Jackson Pike Wastewater Treatment Plant Raw Sewage Pipe Valves Actuator Replacement Project, to authorize the appropriation transfer of $1,017,500 from the Sanitary Sewer Reserve Fund to the Ohio Water Development Loan Fund, to authorize the appropriation of expenditure of $1,017,500 from the Ohio Water Development Loan Fund, to authorize a transfer within an expenditure of up to $2,000 for prevailing wage services to the Department of Public Services within the Sanitary General Obligation Voted Bond Fund, to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget. The existing cone valve actuator system is operationally limited, as it only allows one valve to operate at any time. In addition, the hydraulic system as a whole holds approximately 250 gallons of hydraulic fluid. The new actuators will allow operation of any number of actuators at a given time, which is much more efficient and fun to say. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Now we have ordinance number 1616-2021 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter an agreement with Brown and Caulfield for professional engineering services for the Sudley Wastewater Treatment Plant Digestion Process Expansion Project, Phase 2, for the Division of Sewerage and Drainage, will authorize a transfer of up to $1,129,193 within an expenditure of up to $2,504,192.85 from the Sanitary General Obligation Bond Fund, and to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget. This project involves the diversion of food waste from the landfill to Sudley Wastewater Plant digesters. This will provide an economic and environmental benefit by reducing waste to be sent to the landfill, allowing Sudley to produce more biogas for possible cogeneration or compressed natural gas generation. In addition, the removal of phosphorus from the treatment system may help limit the amount of discharge into the mighty Scioto River. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Next, we have ordinance number 1618-2021 to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into construction contracts, complete general construction code for the large diameter valve replacement Part 2 project, to authorize a transfer and expenditure of up to $2,434,261.50 within the Water General Obligation Bond Fund to provide for payment of prevailing wage services to the Department of Public Service for the Division of Water, and to authorize amendment to the 2020 capital improvement budget. This project involves repairs to the valves on critical large diameter water mains, and it will improve the reliability of the water distribution system. Coordination will occur with nearby customers, including businesses, prior to any beginning construction on the project. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And lastly, in the Public Utilities Committee, we have ordinance number 1667-2021 to authorize the city auditor to transfer $65,000 in an appropriation authority between object classes within the Storm Sewer Operating Fund, to authorize and direct the city attorney to settle a damages claim submitted by SHB Holdings LLC and Harrison on Kenny LLC, to authorize expenditure of $75,000 from the Storm Sewer Operating Fund for settlement payment and declare an emergency. There's been ongoing flooding of the property and businesses located on this property at Kenny Road, and the property owners claim that physical and economic damages have resulted from the water flowing from the city's storm sewer into a private storm sewer. The city attorney, in consultation with the Department of Public Utilities, has determined that it is in the city's best interest to settle this claim. The property owner released the city from all liability related to these claims and has agreed to accept $75,000 and a complete settlement of all claims. Emergency legislation is necessary to ensure settlement is paid to the customer in a timely manner. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Council President, with your permission, I'd like to move on to ordinance number 1959-2021 in the Rules and Reference Committee on page 32 of tonight's agenda. Thank you, sir. We have ordinance number 1959-2021 to amend various sections of Chapter 598 of the Columbus City Codes to strengthen enforcement provisions related to short-term rentals by clarifying definitions, providing additional grounds for denial, suspension, or revocation, and including an appeals process, and to declare an emergency. In July of 2018, Columbus City Council passed legislation amending Chapter 598 of the Columbus City Code in order to establish regulations for short-term rental operations and hosting platforms within the city of Columbus. Given the rapid growth and dynamic nature of short-term rentals, it was written in the original ordinance that a thorough review and assessment of the regulations for short-term rentals would occur 2 years from the January 1st, 2019 implementation timeline. That review, in addition to feedback from the community, has contributed to these amendments and various sections of Chapter 598 to strengthen enforcement provisions related to short-term rentals by clarifying the definitions, providing for additional grounds for denial, suspension, or revocation, and including an appeals process for those issues. I firmly believe that these amendments will help crack down on short-term rental hosts and properties that have been a problem within some of our neighborhoods, while allowing the majority of good hosts to do the things the right way and continue to operate as they have and promote tourism here in the city of Columbus. We had a public hearing on this issue back on June 29th, and I want to thank the Columbus Host Alliance, a group of individuals that are short-term rental hosts here in Columbus, the hosting platforms Airbnb, VRBO, and the Ohio Hotel and Lodging Association, Experience Columbus, the Columbus Realtors, all for their support of this legislation, as well as many area commissions, civic associations, and individual residents who provided feedback during this process. I also want to thank Adam Friedman in the City Attorney's Office, Kathy Clients in the Division of Licensing, and my legislative aide, Kevin McCain, for helping us to get to where we are tonight for passing this legislation. Emergency legislation is being requested so that these changes can go into effect in time before the Division of Licensing reopens to the public on July 22nd. This way, all applicants for new permits and renewals will be applying under this new system. We do have one speaker signed up to speak on this ordinance tonight, Mr. Sergio Castadea. I apologize if I got your name wrong. Are you with us, sir?
I am, yes.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes and the floor is yours, sir.
Okay. Well, first off, I want to thank everyone for taking the time with this. Obviously, yes, this has been a newer industry for here in Columbus and has grown quite a bit in the past couple years. So definitely some changes are needed. My concern is with the ruling with the service calls. I asked that the council reconsider that, in that I feel as though it's a little vague and leaves for areas for manipulation, where there could be a neighbor who just doesn't like the idea of it, whereas instead of 3 service calls in general, that if violations are issued, and then at that point, instead of the service calls, it's 3 violations. So at that point, then we have it's fairly issued and there's opportunity to appeal it. So that's where I feel as though I want the council to reconsider, but besides that, everything else I'm all for.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here and being part of the process. Just a point of clarification on the legislation. So one, the Division of Licensing, the language regarding 3 service calls, they may open an investigation. So it's not required that they do so. So again, if there's an issue of just one individual repeatedly calling for service, whether that's code or whether that's CPD, Division of Licensing can sort of see that and make that adjustment. And additionally, it would be more impactful for there actually to have been a violation of either civil or criminal law that's occurred. That allows the Division of Licensing to look at those things rather than just a hard requirement after 3 calls for service, there's automatically investigation. The legislation is specifically structured to allow that kind of discretion to occur, because we know we've heard from hosts and other folks in the community that they're concerned that, hey, there may be one person in the neighborhood that just is going to keep calling over and over again until they feel like they've been able to have that short-term rental shutdown, even though there may not be an issue. Now, again, the legislation here tonight is to make sure that the city is in a better enforcement position, so that if there is a short-term rental that is not being a good neighbor, that the Division of Licensing actually has the regulatory tools to go in, address the issue, and allow the neighbors to have enjoyment of their neighborhood. So appreciate being here tonight, but I did want to make that one point of clarification. I did want to recognize my colleague, Councilmember Remy, who I think had a couple things to say about this particular legislation tonight. Councilmember Remy?
Thank you so much, Councilmember Dorrance. Thank you to you and your team for all the work that you put into this. As I mentioned at the hearing, I would implore the Department of Technology Director Orth and the licensing division to make a commitment this year to update the website to allow online applications. That's one of the things I get consistently across the board is our 1990s website version for the city of Columbus, and would hope that we could use this opportunity, especially in the licensing division, to make the people that are applying for these licenses make it a little bit easier and bring us into the 21st century. So I just wanted to make those comments this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Remy. Do any of my other colleagues have any questions or comments? Appreciate that, and I certainly one of the things we're actively committed to do, especially with the Host Alliance and the other hosting platforms, is continue to look at how we can sort of automate more of these processes to make sure that they work for everybody, and at the same time make sure the city is in a position to take action if in fact there's issues that arise, whether they're public safety or otherwise. Seeing no other questions or comments, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorrance, Faber, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Council President. And with that is everything I have my committees sorted up tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Public Service and Transportation Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Faber. Councilmember Faber, the floor is yours for a couple minutes.
Thank you, Council President Harden. Tonight in Public Service and Transportation, we have Ordinance 1564-2021 to appropriate funds within the Transportation Grants Fund to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Complete General Construction Company for the signal installations Neal Avenue Signals Project to authorize the expenditure of up to $3,076,118.92 from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund and the Transportation Grants Fund, and to declare an emergency. This contract includes the rehabilitation of 7 signals along Neal Avenue between Buttles Avenue and 10th Avenue to include new mast arm signal poles, signal heads, cabinets, and radar detection. New fiber optic interconnect will be installed from Goodell Boulevard to 11th Avenue. Each signalized intersection will be upgraded to be ADA compliant, complete with new curb ramps. Director Gallagher, do you have any additional comments you'd like to make on this ordinance?
I do not this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorrance, Faber, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 1568-2021 to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget to authorize the transfer of funds and appropriation within the Streets and Highways Bond Fund to waive the formal bidding requirements of Columbus City Code, to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into a professional services contract with Cultivate Geospatial Solutions, LLC, for the Asset Information Management System project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $650,000 from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund to pay for this contract, and to declare an emergency. Director Gallagher, I would like you to provide us with some additional details about the Asset Information management system, and also to explain the waiver of formal bidding requirements.
Yes, thank you. For this legislation, we do need to waive bid because the one company that submitted a proposal accidentally submitted their proposal to another department that had a similar proposal out at the same time. They were the only company that did submit on this bid. Because they were the only company that submitted a proposal and they did meet all the qualifications, we did want to go with them. So we are asking to waive bid for this selection. For our asset management program, this is something that we are starting in the department. We do believe it will save the department millions of dollars as we move forward, but it will allow us to know all of our assets that we have out in the field, everything from pavement selection to all of our signal equipment, signs, pavement markings, bridges, culverts, etc., and make sure that we know the condition of those and what do we need to fix first as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Gallagher. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass. Councilmember Favorite, let's, if we don't mind, take the break.
Sure. I was gonna keep going, but you know.
May we have a motion to recess?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Council is in recess for zoning, which will start momentarily. It will now come to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, present Harden.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, present Harden.
We will now go to the zoning committee. All council members serve on the Councilmember Tyson chairs the committee, and all council members serve on it. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Harden. Before beginning the zoning agenda, I'll briefly explain the rules of council as pertaining to speaking before council on zonings and variances. We permit 3 speakers on each side, 3 proponents and 3 opponents, and we ask they limit their remarks to 3 minutes on each side. And we provide an opportunity for rebuttal from the applicant. On the advice of the city attorney's office, anyone here who wishes to speak for or against any council variance, including staff, please stand. Including staff must be sworn in prior to giving testimony. We do so prior to beginning the reading of each variance on the agenda. Will the clerk read the ordinance numbers the ordinance numbers requiring waiver of second reading into the record?
Yes, 0947, 1591, 1592, 1691, 1743, 1760, 1765, 1773, 1774, 1778, 1779, 1788, 1789, 1790-2021.
Thank you. The first ordinance.
I'm sorry, can you move to waive second reading?
Oh, I mean, I'm sorry. I now want to move to waive. Oh, I will now move to waive second reading. I'm sorry.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown. Sorry, having problem with my microphone. Brown, Dorans, Faber, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Wait.
Thank you. The first ordinance is ordinance 947-2021 to rezone 3470 Snoffer Road, being 0.52 acres located on the north side of Snoffer Road, 180 feet west of Skyline Drive. It's Skyline Drive East from the RR Rural Residential District to the LR4 Limited Residential District. The applicant is it's Grable and Company, care of Jeffrey Brown. The proposed use is a 3-unit building. The city department's recommendation is approval, and the far northwest area recommendation is also approval. So we'll have a presentation. We do have one speaker who's speaking in support of this ordinance, Mr. Newman, but prior to that, can we I'd like to ask for a staff presentation.
Good evening. The site consists of one parcel developed with a single unit dwelling zoned in the RR Rural Residential District. The requested LR4 Limited Residential District will permit redevelopment of the site with a 3-unit dwelling. The limitation text includes a commitment to a site plan and building elevations. While the Northwest Plan recommends office land uses at this location, Planning Division staff supports the request as the site plan adequately addresses the Snelper Road frontage and contains design elements that are otherwise consistent with the plan's residential guidelines. Therefore, staff's recommendation is for approval, and I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pine. Are there any questions for Ms. Pine? Thank you. Seeing none, I will now ask the applicant to make give the applicant an opportunity to make a presentation. Attorney Jeff Brown. Good evening, Mr. Brown.
President Harden, Chairman Tyson, City Council. It's very nice to be back in front of you again after 15 months. My client is looking at developing empty nesters. There are 3 units here. There is an existing single-family house on the property that will be removed. This is a leftover piece of property. There's an extended stay multifamily to the north and east of the site, and a daycare to the west. We presented this to the Neighborhood Association. They recommended approval. We did the same thing at the Development Commission. They recommended unanimous approval, and we had no speaker slips at that meeting. So I'm happy to answer any questions, whoever the speaker is, they have.
I'm sorry. I have any questions for Mr. Attorney Brown? Thank you, Mr. Brown. We have one speaker who's speaking for this project, and that's Aaron Newman. Mr. Newman. I do not see Mr. Newman in council chambers.
And I don't see anyone approaching the podium in the conference room, council member.
All right.
Mr. Newman is head of the Civic Association.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we knew that we hadn't heard from him either about this ordinance. So I don't think he's here. So what we will just do, thank you, Attorney Brown. So there are no speakers for this particular ordinance, and so I first ask my colleagues to, would like to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you. Now I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. The next ordinance is, again, anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. This ordinance 1591-2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332.039 R4, a residential district, 3312.49, minimum numbers of parking spaces required, 3325.801, maximum lot coverage, and 3325.805, maximum floor area ratio. 3332.05 area district lot width requirements, and 3332.15 R4 area district requirements, 3332.19 fronting, and 3332.25 maximum side yards required, 3332.26 minimum side yard permitted, and 3332.27 rear yard Columbus City codes for property located at 1365, 1367 North 6th Street to permit a 2-unit dwelling on a single unit in a single unit carriage house on the same lot with reduced development standards in the R4 residential district. The applicant is O'Brien Company LLC, care of Dave Perry. The proposed use is a single unit dwelling with a carriage house. The city department's recommendation is approval, and the University Air Commission's recommendation is approval 12-1-1. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. Have ordinance number 1592-2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332.037 R2F, residential district 3312.21 D1, parking lot screening 3312.273, parking setback line 3312.49, minimum numbers of parking spaces required, and 3321.05 B12, vision clearance 3332.21, building lines, and 3332.26 F, minimum side yard permitted of the Columbus City codes for the property located at 313 West Fifth Avenue to permit a bed and breakfast establishment with reduced development standards in the R2F residential district. The applicant is HH21 LLC, care of Benjamin McDowell. The proposed use is a bed and breakfast. The city department's recommendation is approval, and the Harrison West Society's recommendation is approval 10-0. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. Ordinance number 1691-2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3333.02 AR 12 ARLD and AR1 apartment residential district use, 3333.09 area requirements, 3333.16 fronting, 3333.22 maximum side yard required, and 3333.23 minimum side yard permitted, and 3333.24 rear yard of Columbus City codes for property located at 90 West Greenwood Avenue to permit a 2-unit dwelling and a single unit dwelling on one lot and 2 single unit dwellings on another lot with reduced development standards at the AR1 apartment residential district. The applicant is C&W Investment Company 2 LLC, care of Dave Perry. The proposed use is a residential development. The city department's recommendation is approval, and the Victoria Village Commission's recommendation is approval 4-0. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand and raise your right hand and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. Ordinance 1743-2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3333.02, AR12, ARLD, and AR1 apartment residential district use. 3312.49 minimum numbers of parking spaces required, 3333.09 area requirements, 3333.16 fronting, 3333.18 building lines, and 3333.22 maximum side yard required, 3333.23 minimum side yard permitted, and 3333.24 rear yard of the Columbus City codes for property located at 969 East Rich Street to permit a single unit dwelling and a single unit carriage house dwelling on the same lot with reduced development standards in the ARLD apartment residential district. The applicant is the Burke Brothers LLC, care of Dave Perry. The proposed use is 2 single unit dwellings on the same lot. The city department's recommendation is approval, and the Near East Area Commission's recommendation is approval 12-0. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Okay. Anyone here this evening who wishes to speak for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 1760-2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332.035 R3 residential district and 3312.49C minimum numbers of parking spaces required of the Columbus City codes for the property located at 267 Kelton Avenue, and to permit an artisan shop with a single unit dwelling with reduced parking in the R3 residential district. And the applicant is Brandon Alt, care of Becca Lynn. The proposed use is an artisan shop with a single unit dwelling. The city department's recommendation is approval, and the Near East Area Commission's recommendation is approval 12-0. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 1765-2021 to rezone 1583 Holt Road, being 1.41 acres located 380 feet south of Georgesville Road, 250 feet west of Holt Road from LC 5 Limited Commercial District to LC 4 Limited Commercial District. The applicant is Holt Road Venture LLC, care of attorney Jeffrey Brown. The proposed use is a limited commercial development. The State Department's recommendation is approval, and the Westland Area Commission's recommendation is also approval 14-0. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 1773-2021 to rezone 1275 Michigan Avenue, being 0.14 acres located on the west side of Michigan Avenue, 120 feet south of West 5th Avenue from LP1 Limited Parking District to R2F Residential District. The applicant is the Likens care of Dave Perry. The proposed use is a single unit dwelling, a single and a 2-unit dwelling development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. The Harrison West Society's recommendation is approval 11-0. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand and raise your right hand and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. 1774-2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of section 3332.037 R2F Residential District, 3312.49 minimum numbers of parking spaces required, 3321.05B1 division clearance, 3332.0584 area district lot lot with requirements, 3332.14 R2F area district and requirements, 3332.18D basis of computing area, 3332.19 fronting, 3332.21 building lines, 32.26F minimum side yard permitted, 3332.27 rear yard, and 3332.28G. Private garage of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 1275 Michigan Avenue to permit a garage as a principal use and reduce development standards for a single and a 2-unit dwelling development in the R2F residential district. The applicant, again, is the Likens Company, care of Dave Perry. The proposed use is single and a 2-unit dwelling development. The city department's recommendation is approval. The Harrison West recommendation is 11-0. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. Yeah, 1777-2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332.035 R2 residential district, 3312.21B3 landscaping and screening, 3312.49 minimum numbers of parking spaces required, and 3332.25 maximum side yards required, and 3332.26F minimum side yard permitted of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 1410 and 1414 Fair Avenue to permit an 8-unit apartment building and a 3-unit dwelling on the same lot with reduced development standards in the R3 residential district. The applicant is Erica Gilmore. The proposed use is an 8-unit apartment building and a 3-unit dwelling on the same lot. The city department's recommendation is approval, and the Near East Area Commission's recommendation is also approval, 9-3. If there are no questions or comments, I'll move to amend to emergency.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you, and now I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Ordinance 1778-2021 to rezone 5949 Central College Road, being 6.17 acres located on the south side of Central College Road, 650 feet west of New Albany Road, west from CPD Commercial Plan Development District to the LC4 Limited Commercial District and the LARLD Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Grenan's Real Estate LLC, care of Aaron Underhill. The proposed use is a mixed-use development. The city department's recommendation is approval. The Rocky Fork Blacklick Accord implementation panel's recommendation is approval, 7-0. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. Okay, 1779-2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3312.09 IL, 3312.21B3 landscaping and screening, 3312.25 maneuvering, and 3312.49 C minimum numbers of parking spaces required, 3321.09 screening, 3333.16 fronting, and 3333.255 perimeter yard of Columbus City Codes for property located at 5949 Central College Road to permit reduced development standards for mixed-use development in the LC4 Limited Commercial District and the LARLD Apartment Limited Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Garan's Real Estate LLC, care of Aaron Underhill. Proposed use is mixed-use development. The city department's recommendation is approval, and the Rocky Fork Blacklick Accord implementation panel recommendations also approval, 7-0. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 1788-2021 to rezone 7811 Flint Road, being 1.23 acres located at the northeast corner of Flint Road and North High Street, from the LC2 Limited Commercial District to the C3D Commercial Plan Development District. The applicant is Flint 22 LLC, care of Catherine Cunningham. The proposed use is office uses. The city department's recommendation is approval, and the Far North Columbus Communities Coalition recommendation is also approval, 9-0. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. The next ordinance. Anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand. Raise your right hand and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. 1789-2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3363.01 in manufacturing districts and 3309.14A height districts of the Columbus City Codes for property located at 3150 Allegheny Avenue to permit a multi-unit residential development with increased building height in the M manufacturing district. The applicant is Woda Cooper Companies LLC, care of Dave Perry. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The city department's recommendation is approval, and the Mid-East Area Commission's recommendation is also approval. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And the final ordinance and zoning. This is what happens when you get close to the break. Everybody's moving in. So everybody get used to this the next couple weeks. So
Here.
oh boy. Anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against this council variance, including staff, please stand. Raise your right hand and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will.
I will.
Thank you. All right, 1790-2021 to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3332.039 R4 Residential District, 3332.05A 4 Area District Lot with requirements, 3332.15 R4 Area District requirements, 3332.18D basis of computing area, 3332.19 fronting, 3332.21 building lines, and 3332.26 C1 minimum side yard permitted, and 3332.27 rear yard of Columbus City Codes for the property located at 915 North 4th Street to permit two single unit dwellings on the same lot with reduced development standards in the R4 residential district. And the applicant is Horace and Rod Development, care of Kareem Amir, I think that's right. The proposed use is two single unit dwellings on the same lot. The city department's recommendation is approval, and the Italian Village Commission's recommendation is approval, 4-1-0. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I now move to table this for 1 week.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Table.
Thank you very much, President Harden. I also want to say thank you to the Department of Building and Zoning Services and the administration for working on all these zonings before the break, and also our team at council. Thank you so much. This concludes the zoning agenda for this evening.
Thank you, Chair Tyson. I would also echo your appreciation. I had a chance to talk to Director Messer today, and he said there's an overwhelming amount of zonings that people are applying for, and he said how hard his team is working to get them through. So on behalf of council and Chair Tyson, we appreciate your hard work. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned.
Up next in Public Service and Transportation, we have Ordinance 1638-2021 to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget to authorize the transfer of funds and appropriation within the Streets and Highways Bond Fund, to appropriate funds and transfer appropriation within the Streets and Highways Bond Fund, to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Newcomer Concrete Services Incorporated for the UIRF Sidewalks and Roadway Improvements 2017 project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $1,314,469.21 from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund for the UIRF Sidewalks and Roadway Improvements 2017 project and to declare an emergency. This contract includes the construction of sidewalks on Hamlet Street from 4th Avenue to Greenwood Avenue, Kerr Street from Hubbard Avenue to the alley north of Hubbard Avenue, and Ellsworth Avenue from Whittier Street to Columbus Street. It also includes resurfacing from Whittier Street to Livingston Avenue, South Nelson Road from Main Street to Brighton Road, North Nelson Road from Greenway Avenue to Maryland Avenue, and Indianola Avenue from Garden Road to Jeffrey Place. Finally, it also includes intersection improvements at Edgefield Road and East Broad Street. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Up next, we have Ordinance 1660-2021 to amend the 2020 capital improvement budget to authorize the transfer of funds and appropriation within the Streets and Highways Bond Fund, to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Columbus Asphalt Paving Incorporated for the Operation Safe Walks School Sidewalks Sycamore Carpenter to Champion project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $652,218.68 from the Streets and Highways Bond Fund, City of Columbus, page 28 of 32, printed on 7/12/2021, Columbus City Council Agenda Fund for the Operation Safe Walks School Sidewalks Sycamore Carpenter to Champion project and to declare emergency. That was a mouthful. This contract includes the construction of sidewalks along the south side of Sycamore Street from the Carpenter Street to Champion Avenue and along the north side from Champion Avenue to the existing curb ramp just west of Oakwood Avenue. Sidewalk installation will include curb ramps, drive approaches, concrete curb, modular retaining walls, curb walls, lead walks, stairs. Director Gallagher, do you have any additional comments you'd like to make regarding the Operation Safe Walks School Sidewalks program?
I would just say that this is one of several that you'll be seeing coming forth here in the next couple months. We'll have several more coming after the break, but we're excited about this program. It's a program where we're building sidewalks around schools and mostly our opportunity neighborhoods. It's a great program. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Gallagher. Any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Up next, we have Ordinance 1676-2021 to appropriate funds within the Federal Transportation Grants Fund, to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Complete General Construction Company for the Pedestrian Safety PSIP Phase 1 PID 113293 project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $2,400,120.08 from the Federal Transportation Grants Fund for the project, to repay any unused grant funds at the end of the grant period, and to declare an emergency. This contract includes the reconstruction of various intersections within the City of Columbus, including stripping, crosswalk, installing pedestrian signal infrastructures, reconstructing curb ramps, and constructing new curb extensions, curb ramps, and medial refuge islands, and other work as may be necessary to complete the contract. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 1678-2021 to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to enter into contracts with Jack Doney Companies Incorporated for the purchase of street sweeping equipment, to authorize the expenditure of up to $1,302,000 $146.50 from the Municipal Motor Vehicle Tax Fund to purchase the equipment and to declare an emergency. The Division of Infrastructure Management will use the street sweeping equipment to clean streets throughout the city of Columbus as part of its street sweeping program. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 1688-2021 to authorize a transfer of funds and appropriation between projects within the Upper Albany West TIF and within the Hamilton Central College TIF, to authorize the appropriation of funds within the Upper Albany West TIF Fund and the Hamilton Central College TIF Fund, to authorize the Director of Public Service to enter into contract with Complete General Construction Company for the Roadway Hamilton Road Extension Phase 2 project, to authorize the expenditure of up to $2,616,549.13 from the Upper Albany West TIF Fund, and to authorize the expenditure of up to $484,487.63 from the Hamilton Central College TIF Fund for the project, and to declare an emergency. This contract includes building a 3-lane roadway north of Central College Road. Additionally, Upper Albany Crossing Drive will be extended east to connect with the proposed Hamilton Road Extension Phase 2. Construction will include sidewalk, shared use path, street lighting, water main, sanitary sewer, and storm water control, and other work as may be necessary to complete the contract. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And last of public service, we have Ordinance 1964-2021 to authorize the city clerk to enter into a grant agreement with the Columbus Foundation in support of the Rapid 5 initiative, and to authorize an appropriation and expenditure of $50,000 within the Neighborhood Initiatives Subfund, and to declare an emergency. I'll now turn it over to Council President Harden to speak more about this ordinance.
Sorry about that, Councilmember. Ordinance 1964-2021 is as Columbus continues to grow, we have to be strategic about how to provide more folks access to green space, trails, and active transportation opportunities. The Rapid 5 is a visioning process that brings together government, businesses, and residents to create a vision for a green space system that spans the region. This extends beyond individual jurisdictions to focus on Franklin County's 5 major waterways: Big Darby, Scioto, Olentangy, Alum Creek, and Big Walnut. The Rapid 5 project will support and complement the implementation of the regional trail vision to create a connected trail network. For those interested in this project, on July 21st, the 5 design firms associated with the 5 corridors will present their visions for these greenways at the Boathouse. The event starts at 4:30 p.m. on the 21st. You can find out more information about the event on the Columbus Metropolitan Club's website. Thank you, Councilmember Faber.
Thank you, Council President Harden. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Council President Hart, may I move on to housing?
Please.
In housing, we have Ordinance 1505-2021 to create the Cleveland Avenue Community Reinvestment Area and to authorize real property tax exemptions as authorized by sections 3735.65 to 3735.70 of the Ohio Revised Code. The goal of a community reinvestment area is neighborhood revitalization and stabilization. This ordinance will create the Cleveland Avenue Community Reinvestment Area, the CRA, and provide for real property tax exemptions. The real property tax exemptions provided herein will be available only for parcels that are residentially zoned or parcels where residential use is permitted by variance, and only for properties that are actually used for residential purposes. This CRA will support the development of Bretton Woods, a project by National Church Residences. Bretton Woods will consist of 62 one-bedroom units, age restricted at 55 and older, with an average age of 72 years old. 52 units will be at 60% of the area median income, or $850 in rents, with 10 units at 30% of the area median income, or $471 rents. Director Stevens, would you like to make any additional comments on this project or the Cleveland Avenue CRA?
Good evening, President Harden, Chair Favor, members of council. I'd just like to add, this is going to be a 4% low-income tax credit deal that National Church Residence is pursuing, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Director Stevens. Are there any questions or comments by my colleagues? Seeing none, I would move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Up next, we have Ordinance 1506-2021 to create the Brockwood Community Reinvestment Area and to authorize real property tax exemptions authorized by sections 3735.65 to 3735.70 of the Ohio Revised Code. Last week, I held a public hearing regarding the CRA ordinances before us tonight. During that hearing, National Church Residences agreed to share some additional information about their mid-market development that would sit within this CRA. I look forward to meeting with them this week to discuss this further. With that, I'd like to table this ordinance until the July 19th meeting, pending further conversation with National Church Residences. If there are no questions or comments, I move to table to July 19th, 2021.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President.
Tabled.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 1507-2021 to create the Southeast Community Reinvestment Area and to authorize real property tax exemptions as authorized by sections 3735.65 to 3735.70 of the Ohio Revised Code. The Southeast CRA will support a Wilcox Metro development on Gender Road. The new project will include 200 multifamily units with 10% of the units at 80% AMI and 10% of the units at 60% AMI or area median income. Director Stevens, would you like to make any additional comments on this project or the Southeast CRA?
Thank you, Chair Favor. I have nothing else to add, but would be happy to answer any questions.
If there are no questions or comments by my colleagues, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. Next in housing, we have Ordinance 1508-2021 to amend the AC Humco Community Reinvestment Area to modify its geographic boundaries. We have one speaker on this ordinance, Mr. Joe Motil.
Columbus, Ohio. President Harden, Pro Tem Brown, Chair Favor, members of City Council. I appreciate Councilwoman Favor for holding a public hearing last Wednesday on the creation of the new CRAs and the expansion of the AC Humco CRA. As I stated in my testimony on Wednesday, there needs to be a public hearing revoking this AC Humco CRA along with the Short North CRA, north by northeast, northwest, and as far as I'm concerned, the Grandview Crossing, Coring Project, and Kenny and Henderson CRAs, all of which were designed and created for the benefit of specific projects for favored City Hall developers who continue to pocket unnecessary excessive profits from tax abatements that are linked to CRAs, all at the cost of depleting revenues primarily from public education and other county agencies that rely on property tax funding. And as a result, the burden of paying for these revenues is placed on the residents who pay more than their fair share of taxes and those individuals who are on fixed and low incomes, along with higher property taxes on rental properties who pass such increases on to renters while thus increasing higher monthly rates and evictions. Development Deputy Director Jones stated at the public hearing last Wednesday that, quote, "This expansion does not include a large number of parcels that she thinks would cause an increase." She also stated that, quote, "In fact, there are $1 million homes that are already there and they would not benefit from the expansion of the CRA," end of quote. With all due respect to Ms. Jones, both of these statements couldn't be further from the truth. It is not my job, but the city's Department of Development's to do the research on exactly how many parcels are included in this expansion. But from looking at an aerial view from the auditor's website, I'm guessing there might be as many as 400 parcels. In the $1 million homes on Neal Avenue, and all 400 parcels would in fact benefit from the proposed AC Humco CRA expansion because each and every one of those parcels within the expansion's boundaries are eligible to receive tax abatements. For example, a remodeling project, tearing down a garage and building a larger one, or if City Council incorporates into the new zoning code additional dwelling units or ADUs, which is being discussed. Such units would also be subject to tax abatements in this increased expansion area if they fall under the criteria spelled out in the language of the CRA, making them eligible for a tax abatement. That is a fact. And although the 10% set-asides and 80% and 100% set-asides for 80 and 100% AMI are well-intentioned, they discriminate against Blacks whose average income in Columbus is $37,500. And it really isn't putting a dent into the real affordable housing crisis, of which 54,000 units are needed for those paying 50% or more of their income towards housing. You don't see young white people in their late 20s, 30s, and 40s living in the streets because they can't find an apartment or studio to live in where rents are an average of $1,250 a month or more. We have a glut of high-end housing in Columbus benefiting white corporate Columbus and their employees. It's long overdue that the city mandates set-asides for 60% AMI, all apartments regardless of located in a CRA. Let's put $250 million affordable housing bond package on the ballot, allocate $60 million to the city and counties American Rescue Plan dollars, and request the Columbus Partnership to match it, which would immediately place $180 million into affordable housing. Urge the Columbus Partnership to start its own affordable housing trust fund. Lobby Children's Hospital to incorporate a 50 to 100 unit apartment building as part of its $3.3 billion expansion. Increase the affordable housing trust fund percentage of the hotel tax from 8.3% to 20%. Tax abatements in risk-free areas are not the answer or even a tool that should be used to address our affordable housing crisis. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Motel. Thank you, Mr. Motel. Are there any questions by my colleagues for Mr. Motel? Thank you for your continued advocacy in the housing space. Director Stevens, I'd like to take this opportunity or provide you with an opportunity to update the residents of Columbus who did not have an opportunity to tune in to last week's hearing to talk a little bit about the current process of our incentive review policy.
Thank you, President Hardin, Chair Faber, members of council. 3 years ago, when we implemented the housing abatement policy, we said we would do a review after 3 years to see, how was it working? What adjustments do we need to make to that? So we have started that process at the beginning of 21. Unfortunately, there's been some delay in gathering of the data and the information we need to really understand what the gap analysis is, what are the right criteria we should be looking at. For example, should we be looking at evictions or should we be looking at the foreclosures versus other type of data on determining whether or not that criteria around the percentage and the depth and the amount of affordability around these abatements. So we are in the midst of finalizing that data. We've got an internal working group. We're fortunate enough that members of the Legislative Research Office and council staff are participating in that. We hope to have something, a recommendation finalized in August, go out and work with the public and do some public community outreach meetings, and then bring something to City Council after break.
Thank you, Director Stevens. And I think it's important to acknowledge that what I said last week during the hearing is that we know we cannot tax abate our way out of our housing crisis problem in Columbus. And so I'm excited about this review of our incentive policy, but we have a lot of work to do to ensure that equity is incorporated in our next incentive policy to ensure that we are truly building affordable housing for all residents in Columbus. With that, I do have some additional questions and conversation I would like to have with the Department of Development regarding this ordinance. With that, I move to table until July 19th council meeting.
Second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Tabled.
Thank you. Next, we have Ordinance 1818-2021 to authorize the Director of Development to enter into multiple subrecipient agreements with the to-be-determined organizations to provide rental and utility assistance and housing stability services to residents in the local area who qualify for the assistance as provided in the laws, regulations, and other current guidance provided by the U.S. Department of Treasury Emergency Rental Assistance 1 program in an amount up to $10,711,312.20 to authorize the payment of expenses starting January 1st, 2021, to authorize the Director of Development to modify the scope of services and/or terms and conditions of the subrecipient agreements as needed without seeking further City Council approval, to authorize the expenditure of up to $10,711,312.20 from the Emergency Rental Assistance Fund, and to declare an emergency. I'd like to turn it over to Director Stevens to talk more about this ordinance and the plan for reimagining emergency rental assistance dollars.
Thank you, President Harden, Chair Favor, members of council. As you are aware, we have initially provided rental assistance dollars in the amount of $10 million to Impact Community Network, $3 million to the Columbus Urban League, and another $3 million to some of our Celebrate One partners. This is the remainder of those emergency rental assistance funds that we got on the first tranche of those dollars. What we're trying to do with this is to really focus on populations that are more vulnerable and experiencing housing instability, because we know while our partners at Impact and the Urban League and some of our Celebrate One partners are reaching a good portion of our population, we still have vulnerable populations that are not being served, such as immigrant and refugee households, youth population, 18 to 24, individuals that are 60 years or older, individuals with disabilities, and others that will be described by the applicant. It's really important that we try to get to those individuals who are facing housing instability that aren't going some of the traditional routes that we have set up. So by putting this in place, we're requesting those proposals for financial assistance, and we will fund those up to $1 million.
Thank you, Director Stevens. Are there any questions or comments for the director? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, Faber, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. Council President Harden, may I move on to criminal justice? Tonight in criminal justice and judiciary, we have ordinance 1263-2021 to accept the recommendation of and to authorize the direct the special counsel through the city attorney to vote to approve the bankruptcy settlement pertaining to the Chapter 11 plan of the reorganization of Purdue Pharma LP in the United States Bankruptcy Court for the Southern District of New York, case number 19-23649, to authorize the city attorney to take all steps necessary to resolve these matters in accordance with the terms of the bankruptcy settlement, to authorize the city attorney to settle any remaining future claims arising out of and regarding national prescription opiate litigation in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Ohio, MDL case number 117-MD-02804-DAP, and to declare an emergency. I'd now like to turn it over to Brian Shin in the City Attorney's Office to speak more about this ordinance.
Good evening, Chair Favor, President Harden, and members of council. Back in 2017, the City of Columbus, through special counsel, initiated litigation against numerous manufacturers, distributors, and pharmacies that contributed to the opioid epidemic. Those cases were consolidated into what later became known as the multi-district opiate litigation in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Ohio. In response to that litigation, in 2019, Purdue Pharma declared bankruptcy and filed bankruptcy proceedings. So the ordinance tonight would authorize the city attorney's special counsel to vote to approve the bankruptcy settlement of Purdue Pharma in the bankruptcy court related to the multi-district litigation. It would also give the city attorney's office the authority to approve any additional settlement of associated claims in the multi-district litigation because we anticipate that more of these claims may come up. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Shin. Do we have an idea when these settlements might come before the city attorney's office for approval?
Well, this particular one has to be approved, I believe, in the next couple of days, or at least we have to give approval for the vote. And the others may be coming in the coming months, Councilmember Favor.
Which is one of the reasons why we are doing what we're doing tonight and providing the city attorney with the authority and the autonomy to act on behalf of the city. If any of these settlements should come to a settlement while we're on break. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Thank you. Yes, I'm sorry, Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you, Councilmember Favor. Could you or certainly Council, the Attorney's Office, Attorney Shin, just kind of share with our community, once we get these dollars, how will those dollars be used to serve our community?
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. My understanding of the terms of the settlement is that the money will be put back into the community. So there's a formula for this particular settlement from Purdue Pharma, where the state of Ohio would get 4.35% approximately of what might be up to $5 billion. That's billion with a B. And then that would be distributed to the municipalities in Ohio as part of the settlement. And that funding must be used to pay for opiate-related expenses, ongoing issues that the communities are facing with the opiate crisis. And that is the purpose of the settlement funds.
Thank you, Attorney Shin. This was a question that was asked to me in regards to us receiving those dollars. Again, they're not going to individuals, but certainly to organizations that are working with individuals who have been impacted by the opioid crisis. Would that be correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Councilmember Tyson. Are there any additional questions? Council President Harden.
Madam Chair, this question really is just kind of a request. As these litigations come through and these settlements come through, could we ask the City Attorney's Office to give just some type of notification or formal information, documentation to council and the administration that we are settling these cases?
Absolutely, Council President Harden. That was my request of City Attorney Zach Klein, just in speaking in greater detail about the effect of this legislation and any unintended consequences to ensure that this body is kept abreast of things as they unravel, not unravel, that's the wrong word to use, as they unfold. And then for us to revisit this conversation after break to see where we're at.
Absolutely.
Any additional questions or comments at this time? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, Faber, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And last in criminal justice, we have ordinance 1581-2021 to authorize and direct the city clerk to accept $107,027. I'm sorry, $107,027.50 grant on behalf of the City of Columbus from the Ohio State University Alliance for the American Dream, a collaboration with Schmidt Futures to authorize an appropriation within the Neighborhood Initiative Subfund, to authorize a transfer of cash between the Neighborhood Initiative Subfund and the General Government Grants Fund, to authorize the appropriation of up to $321,082.50 from the unappropriated balance of the General Government Grants Fund, to authorize the Director of the Department of Technology to enter into contract with Smart Columbus LLC and to waive the competitive bidding provisions of City Code. I would now like to turn it over to my colleague, Councilmember Dorans, to speak more about this ordinance. Councilmember Dorans.
Thank you, Chair Favor. As many are aware, my office has been working with a number of partners to help simplify the criminal record sealing process and expand access to legal support services for Columbus residents. This money tonight will help us achieve this goal by launching the Opportunity Port program to residents, hopefully here this fall. We've got a couple of folks here tonight to speak about this legislation, so I want to invite them forward. But tonight, Doug Berman, the Executive Director of the Drug Enforcement Policy Center housed at the Moritz College of Law at Ohio State, who has graciously taken on a large role in helping to manage Opportunity Port. He is accompanied by their newest employee, a former council team member, Hannah Miller, as well. Just wanted to have Doug here tonight talk a little bit more about their expanding role on this project and thank them for their support. Doug?
For finding this chance to speak in favor of Ordinance 1581-2021. Mentioned, my name is Doug Berman. I'm a professor at the Moritz College of Law. I also serve as the director of Ohio State's Drug Enforcement and Policy Center. Our center examines the impact of drug prohibitions on personal freedoms and human well-being. We've had the pleasure of collaborating with Councilmember Doran's office early on with Opportunity Port. I'm very excited for our center to be able to continue to contribute this truly urgent and necessary work. Earlier this year, of course, the Ohio General Assembly expanded eligibility for record sealing with the passage of House Bill 1. The passage of 1581-2021 takes an important step forward in democratizing access to justice. The launch of Opportunity Port addresses the underutilization of important record sealing opportunities here in Franklin County by connecting prospective applicants with legal assistance needed to complete the application process and clear criminal records from public view. The funds ordained will enable the Drug Enforcement and Policy Center to continue the work that Councilman Doran's team started almost 2 years ago. Not only will the center advance the execution of the Opportunity Port program, we will also evaluate the program's outcomes at the end of the pilot in 2022. We have a truly tremendous project team and partners all committed to promoting record sealing as a viable pathway for Columbus's justice-involved individuals and the community generally to achieve economic mobility and prosperity. I thank you very much for giving our center and Ohio State the opportunity to take part in this important work and for all of your leadership moving forward on this project. I'm happy at this point to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Berman. I appreciate you being here tonight. Do any of my council colleagues have any questions? Council President?
Just want to thank you for the work that the Institute does. I was reminded by my colleague or by my aide, Zach, about the close work that we as council had with your office during the marijuana decrim, looking at how that affected minorities in particular in our city. So just time and time again, your work is providing real life instances and real life cases for how we can be better.
Thank you so much, Council President. And again, your work and the work of the council is just so important and exciting to have a chance, through our center and through the university more generally to just continue forward with this important work for the whole community.
Well, thank you, Mr. Berman, for being here. And I think one of the exciting things that you mentioned is in particular, so there's national data on what criminal record sealing does for folks when it pertains to housing and income. And we're going to be able to see that here in Columbus after the launch of Opportunity Port. So we've seen this be very, very helpful for folks across the country. And we know that this is going to be really impactful for folks here in Columbus. And we're going to be able to quantify that. And through your work at the Drug Enforcement Policy Center, we're going to be able to do that. So thank you so much for the leadership role that you all have taken on with this project and all the hard work that's still yet to come. So appreciate you being here and being supportive. Thank you, Mr. Berman. Chair Faber.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Dorrance. Thank you for being here this evening. I would be remiss if we did not shout out Hannah Miller, who's in chambers with us today, and Kevin, your entire team for the amazing work that you all have done to get us to this space with Opportunity Port. I know that our judges are on the call with us this evening. And you've been intentional, Councilmember Dorans, about the way you engage the members of the bench, and then working with incredible partners at OSU and others to ensure that this work is truly based in equity, to ensure that our residents have that second chance that they rightfully deserve to gain access to housing and opportunity employment and higher education if they so choose. So I'm just really excited to continue to support you in this work. With that, I would move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. That's all I have in my committees.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Economic Development Committee. The committee is chaired by Councilmember Remy. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Council President Harden. Tonight I have Ordinance 1679, 2021 to authorize the Director of Department of Development to enter into a grant agreement with Columbus Sister Cities International, Inc. in an amount up to $150,000 for the purpose of promoting business, government, cultural, educational, and environmental exchanges between the Columbus Sister Cities, to authorize the transfer of $50,000 within the general fund from the Department of Development Division of Administration to the Division of Economic Development, to authorize the expenditure of $150,000 from the 2021 general fund budget, and to declare an emergency. I am going to attempt to name our 10 sister cities and pronounce it properly. We do have 10, and the first one's Accra in Ghana. Ahmedabad. See, this is terrible. Ahmedabad in India, Curitiba in Brazil, Dresden in Germany, Genoa in Italy, Hefei in China, Ursula in Israel, Odense in Denmark, Seville in Spain, and Tainan in Taiwan. City funding has been provided in previous years to support staffing and administrative costs of the Sister Cities organization. CSCI has worked diligently to raise capital for its overall operation. Additional support is required to maintain a full-time executive director and to defray miscellaneous administrative costs. Emergency action is requested to allow Columbus Sister Cities International to continue to provide uninterrupted services in the promotion and implementation of international projects. This evening, we are fortunate to have Jamie Staley, the executive director of the Greater Columbus Sister Cities International, here to share a few words on this ordinance. Jamie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Councilmember Remy. That was quite a list read. Council members, it's great to be with you this evening to talk a little bit about the work that Greater Columbus Sister Cities has been doing in a year that was anything but typical. We started off 2020 with some in-person programming, including a delegation that headed to Dresden to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the bombings of Dresden, as well as a partnership with Columbus State's Mitchell College, where we hosted a pesto competition. Councilmember Tyson, Jenny Britton Bauer, and Roberto Paznizzi from Italy joined us to select our winner, Reese Flowers, who will eventually be traveling to our sister city of Genoa to participate in the World Pesto Competition. As many of you know, the world kind of shifted on us, and our aggressive travel and economic development programming shifted, and we leaned into virtual programming over the course of the last year. That included partnerships with Columbus State on a variety of fronts, including community education. We did a virtual presentation of the Paganini concert for Columbus residents who were home during that time. We've also partnered with Franklin Park Conservatory and a variety of other community partners to enhance diversity within our community and to talk about the amazing global community that exists here in Columbus. We are anxious to get back to traveling the world and sharing the success stories that we experience here in Columbus. And I thank all of you for all of your support of this organization over the last.
Well, we certainly appreciate keeping everything together during the pandemic, and the work that you do with all of our sister cities. Those relationships are very important. Director Stevens, do you have any comments you'd like to make? Just shake your head no if you don't, but
I just want to thank Jamie and sister cities for the important economic development work they're doing internationally and supporting our efforts. So thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any comments or questions from my colleagues this evening? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you, Jamie. Next ordinance is 1689, 2021, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of up to $165,000 from the Brewery District TIF Fund to the Brewery District Fund. To authorize the appropriation and expenditure of up to $165,000 in the Brewery District Fund, to authorize the Director of Development to enter into contract with AECOM Technical Services, Inc. to provide professional services for the 3rd Street Cap Viability Study in the amount of up to $165,000 and to declare an emergency. This legislation authorizes the Director of Development to enter into contract with AECOM Technical Services, Inc. to provide professional services for the 3rd Street Cap Viability Study in an amount of $165,000. The project was formally advertised on vendor services from March 11th through April 1st, 2021. 4 proposals were received and all proposals were responsive. AECOM Technical Services came on top along after other applications submitted by Elford, Jonathan Barnes Architectural and Design Limited, and MS Consultants. The City of Columbus, in partnership with the Ohio Department of Transportation, requested proposals to access the viability of commercial development on a proposed building cap over Interstate 70 and 71 on 3rd Street between Livingston Avenue and Fulton Street in downtown Columbus, and on 1 acre of adjacent land. The City of Columbus sought proposals to examine the feasibility of private development on and adjacent to the 3rd Street Bridge that will be reconstructed with ODOT's Columbus Crossroads Phase 4B project. The city and ODOT seek to develop the property consistent with the goals of the surrounding neighborhoods and in a complementary fashion with the public infrastructure projects being undertaken in the area. Emergency action is requested to complete the study within the next 6 months in order to be in alignment with ODOT's project schedule. And since we had a nice grant award last week, I am going to turn this over to Director Gallagher to provide some additional details about this project.
Thank you, Council President Harden, Council Member Remy. As you mentioned, the City of Columbus did receive a $25 million award last week from the Infrastructure for Rebuilding America, the INFRA grant program, to support Phase 4 of the Columbus Crossroads project, which is a $1.3 billion undertaking to replace aging infrastructure on bridges, alleviate traffic congestion, reduce safety risk, and really reconnect neighborhoods at the intersection overlap of the Interstate 70 and 71 in our wonderful downtown Columbus. This project will reconnect downtown with our South Side neighborhoods by expanding and improving 3 of our overpass bridges along High Street, 3rd Street, and 4th Street. The bridge caps will have on-street parking, public art, green space, and/or commercial development that will complement the High Street and 3rd Street bridges. What you're considering tonight is a feasibility study to have a commercial cap on the 3rd Street bridge, like the current cap over I-670. This will tie the commercial space from downtown to German Village. The bridge's commercial space could also be anchored by new commercial space, like you mentioned, along Livingston Avenue. Phase 4 allows the city to reclaim approximately 1.5 acres from the 7071 overlap created by the removal of the ramps and use the space for new development on the north side of Livingston Avenue. The grant we received assures the development community that this work is going to happen in a timely manner, and therefore this feasibility study is happening at a perfect time and should move forward. So thank you for allowing me to speak on this evening.
Well, thank you so much, Director. Director Stevens, did you have any additional comments you'd like to make? All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues this evening? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the row.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
And that's all the business I have in economic development this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Health and Human Service Committee. The committee is chaired by Councilmember Tyson. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Harden. I have ordinance number 1634-2021 to authorize the Board of Health to modify, extend, and increase the existing contract with OSU hospitals for continued COVID-19 testing, to authorize expenditure of $159,500 from the Health Department Special Revenue Fund for said contract, and to waive competitive bidding requirements of city code and to declare an emergency. And I am going to ask Dr. Mashika Roberts to please share why we are not having did not have competitive bidding, and she will just share that point and why we are continuing to extend this contract. Dr. Roberts.
Yes, hi, thank you for that question. We wanted to make sure we had testing available for all of our residents if they needed to get tested, and they would be able to get accurate results very quickly. As you know, this is a testing program that we started with our hospital systems back in June of 2020 at the health department, and where we rotated different hospitals in. We wanted to make sure there was no interruption of that testing once the Celeste Center closed down a few weeks ago. And OSU and their locations that they offer and their quick turnaround provided us with the ability to move on that quickly and not interrupt the services to our community.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. And I know that as we are continuing to get the vaccines, we still certainly have this Delta variant in our community. And if anyone happens to have COVID, that we want to be able to have facilities to be able to test for that. We do have a speaker regarding this ordinance, and it's Mr. Charles Robo. Mr. Robo, could you please come and state your name, who you represent, and you have 3 minutes to speak. And you are speaking against this ordinance.
I only got 2 minutes last time I got to speak before.
You need to state your name and who you represent, and you have 3 minutes.
I'm Mr. Roble, and I'm just a concerned resident. With that, let me get started. I don't really trust OSU to be a good neighbor after Chit Fest. You know, Commissioner Roberts said that she was going to take the spring game seriously, and then that became a huge potential mass spreading event. As we all know, how you guys talked at tonight's meeting, y'all have way failed to even get to the nationwide average for vaccination rate. So that's pretty worrying. So because of that, OSU doesn't seem to be a very good partner in the community. So I wouldn't want to give them any more money. As Commissioner Mitch Brown talked about tonight with human trafficking, I think we should take that super seriously with Ohio State. And I think next week y'all should ask Abigail Wexner to leave Ohio State's Board of Trustees, because the Wexners were major funders of Jeffrey Epstein, who's accused of child sex trafficking. So hopefully OSU will take that seriously. There's an accusal of sexual assault in New Albany at the Wexner household by Epstein, as well as somebody in Santa Monica in the 90s. So the Wexners knew about Epstein and his sketchiness, and they essentially funded him. But continuing on, Stephen Colbert has talked about we've spent $5.5 trillion on COVID-19 so far. If we take Congressperson Massey's estimate, that's almost $17,000 per person. It's $6 trillion for 350 million people. So we literally could have abolished poverty for all the money y'all have helped the federal government spend on COVID-19 at this point. But instead, y'all didn't abolish poverty. We have 170,000 people in Columbus living in poverty. 70,000 of them are African Americans, according to welfareinfo.org. So, y'all have pretty much failed them with all the money that you sent to special interests, or helping the federal government do so. And we've also had the extra tax of inflation, which isn't even voted for, as we see with, the skyrocketing costs of fuel, lumber, all these things. So yeah, when you all talk about inequality and equity, it's pretty ridiculous when we had the greatest wealth transfer, which is the COVID interventions, where we've given trillions of dollars to the world's richest people, and then you guys refused to end poverty, and then you guys too had massive inflation to hurt the lowest lot. So that's pretty ridiculous. After spending all that money, we've had 600,000 people in America that have claimed to be killed at this point by COVID-19. So it's pretty ridiculous that y'all seem to not at all be curious about the origin of COVID-19. Y'all have declarations for 614 day and all these other things, which sure, that's fine if you want to declare that stuff, but you guys are not at all curious about knowing what caused this crisis, which this is the first time y'all have met in person in like almost a year, I don't know, many, many months. So, I mean, that's super ridiculous. First, they've called into question the legitimacy of the investigations of COVID-19 origin to this point. Nobel Prize winning virologist Luc Montagnier has said that there's evidence of manipulation in the COVID-19 virus. So, I mean, I think that's ridiculous that you guys won't talk about that. Additionally, former Pfizer VP Michael Eden has attacked the safety of these vaccines. So he's another.
Madam Chair, I just want to let you know that the buzzer did go off. And so, Mr. Roble, if you.
Y'all additionally are paying people $100 for the vaccine. So if y'all can please talk about the form and consent about whether or not it's an emergency.
Mr. Robo, Mr. Robo, you've extended your 3 minutes. I appreciate your comments. And this legislation, again, is to modify, extend, and increase existing contract with OSU for continued COVID-19. And COVID-19 is certainly still within our community. And we just talked about the Delta variant. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Thank you. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. The next ordinance on my committee is Ordinance 1800-2021, and it is to authorize the Director of Development to execute a not-for-profit service contract with Central Community House of Columbus Incorporated in an amount of up to $700,000 for the administration of transit arts residency program and construction of a pavilion, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure for up to $700,000 from the Neighborhood Economic Development Fund, and to authorize the payment of expenses starting June 1 of 2021, and to declare an emergency. I am going to, so TARP is a new pilot program created by CCH, and will provide guidance and support to artists who will then work with our youth in the Near East, Near South Side, and Franklinton neighborhoods to establish a series of art projects ranging from the temporary to long-term installations to performance arts-based events. Young people will have an unparalleled opportunity to work with artists on projects that will encompass the broadest possible spectrum of the arts, including visual, music, literature, and performance and theater arts, dance, and technology. Funding will also support the construction of a pavilion in which the artists and residents and youth will use to showcase their work. This program began June the 1st and will continue through the end of 2021. And I am now going to ask, this is an exciting program, I'm going to ask Tamar Forrest, who is the Central Community House Executive Director, but if she cannot be with us, I know that Jackie Calderon, who's a transit arts program, will be able to speak to this.
Thank you, Council Member Tyson. I'm so sorry that I'm not Tammy. She had a family emergency and is very sorry that she cannot be here. But I'm so grateful for this opportunity to do my best to represent our young people and the amazing artists that work with our program. And I'm also very thankful to Director Stevens and the Department of Development for helping us to shepherd this project through, or shepherd the idea through. And we were hoping for support from City Council members. This project will employ 44 young people ages 16 to 24. In addition to, 11 artists, this will be a blend of younger artists in their mid-careers, as well as some of our very fine professional artists who have been working with us for many years. So I've had the great pleasure of working with, for example, Richard Dwar Brown from our days in the Shortstop. We're celebrating our 30-year anniversary this year. And then other artists like PHB and Jay Carey. So we have an amazing group of mentoring artists there will be a cascading process of mentoring so that those with the greatest number of years of experience will be mentoring the mid-career artists and then the younger artists, and then filling the whole project, most important, with the ideas and hopes and aspirations of the young people. Because there's no point in doing for us to do public art unless the young people and their community members are completely invested in the process. So we're very, very excited about this. We're super excited about the opportunity to have a training space so that we can take our open mics, which we've been doing for many years, to the next level so the young people can learn how to do the lighting, all the technology, how to manage events, how to do the planning. So the arts, of course, includes not only the performing and visual and literary arts, but also all the ancillary programs, the planning, the administration, the budgeting, the contracts. So there's a place for every young person to have a piece of this. And right now, it's extremely important that our young people have support for the stress that they've been experiencing. So another important piece of this is having a wonderful licensed mental health professional, Latasha Washington, who will be working with our young people with weekly check-ins to see how they're doing and to make sure that any family needs are referred to the proper programs at Central Community House or their partner programs. So, questions? And again, thank you so much for letting us come before you.
Thank you, Jackie, for the work that you're doing with our young people. And please tell Ms. Forrest we missed her, but thank you for working to create this program for our young people. And I also just want to give a shout out to Director Stevens. I don't know if he wants to make any comments regarding the work on this program and his team, but certainly, as you mentioned, art has a way of not only is, of course, it's beautiful, et cetera, but as you talk about the mental health aspects, how important that is, and especially with all the things that are going on with our young people right now, any way for them to be able to speak with a mental health professional and also be involved in the arts is going to help their overall quality of life. Director Stevens, would you like to make any comments?
Chair Tyson, first I want to thank you for your support on this project. Not only is it an innovative summer youth art program, employment program, but artists are also small business people, and they have been shut out from some of the opportunities that small businesses have gotten or been provided to help recover from the pandemic. So this is a program to not only help employ some of our summer youth, but the artists in our community as well. So we're really proud to be partnering on this.
Thank you, Director, and your creativity and helping to put this program together. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, Faber, Remy, Tyson, President Hart.
Passed.
Thank you. That concludes the legislation of my committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Small and Minority Business Committee. I chair that committee. In tonight's In small business, we have ordinance 1749-2021. This ordinance authorizes the director of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion to establish and implement race and gender neutral and conscious program policies based on the findings and recommendations of the City of Columbus's July 2019 disparity study. This legislation authorizes the director of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion to establish and implement the policy for the City of Columbus's new minority and women-owned business and small local business enterprise programs. The policy is based on the results of the city's 2019 disparity study completed by Mason Tillman and Associates and accepted by the Columbus City Council July 31st, 2019, in Resolution 0220X-2019. Based on the findings of the study in collaboration with the city departments and external stakeholders, the director of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion shall establish and implement race, gender neutral, and race, gender specific program remedies. I want to give special thanks to Director Demeter Brown for helping to get the city to this point. This has been a long, winding road and process, and I truly appreciate the work and the push to get us here. In addition to this authorization, Council will see code changes before the end of the month. That legislation will codify some of these changes that have corresponding sections in City Code. Director Brown, I want to open it up for you for any comments.
Thank you, President Harden and members of council. You know, tonight I just want to say thank you for your leadership. This has been a very arduous task, but something that has certainly been well worth it. So thank you for your leadership. I'd also like to thank the leadership of my colleagues, the city department directors as well, who has really helped to move this initiative forward. I believe that this legislation is a game changer for the city of Columbus, and it is transformative in our procurement practices in enabling us to not only build the capacity of our small minority businesses, but it also helps us to drive the equity agenda of the city forward. So again, thank you for your leadership, and I'm happy to answer any questions you or members of council may have.
Thank you, Director Brown. Any questions or comments? Just a reminder, this allows us to set up the program. In the coming weeks, we'll have the specific code changes that will go along, and we'll speak to the very specific work that this council has done, and specifically the work that the Department of ODI has done to create these programs that we are the changes that will help us implement with this program, with the disparity study says. Councilmember Tyson.
President Harden, I just want to thank you, this council, and certainly the administration and Director Brown for the work to get us to this place. It is absolutely needed legislation in the city of Columbus. If we're going to continue to think about racism as a public health crisis and equity for men and for women and people of color, we really do need to make sure that we're having we are accepting the findings and recommendations of the disparity study, and I look forward to the additional legislation that will again bring more equity to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Seeing no further comments, may I have a motion I move for passage. Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Ordinance is passed. Our final committee to come before council is the Rules and Reference Committee. I think we only have one ordinance left in this committee. It is Ordinance 1169-2021. It's to codify the composition of the Civilian Police Review Board and the Department of the Inspector General for the Division of Police, and to supplement the city charter by conferring expanded authority to the board and the Department of the Inspector General to exercise certain duties and responsibilities, including the authority to develop administrative rules, receive, initiate, review, and cause the investigation of complaints of misconduct, to make recommendations on resolutions of complaints, to make recommendations on discipline, and in specific circumstances to subpoena witnesses and evidence, and to declare an emergency. I first want to thank the mayor's office, the city attorney's office, and council's teams, especially Councilmember Dorans, who led this effort in collaborating with all those different departments. This legislation establishes membership terms, organizations of the Civilian Review Board duties, and terms for the Inspector General. This legislation allows the board to get started in simple. Councilmember Dorrance, thank you for your leadership, and I'll turn it over for any more comments.
Thank you, Council President. Just again, want to appreciate your leadership on this and all those who helped get us here tonight, including the chair of the Civilian Review Board, Janet Jackson, Laura Baker Morris in the City Attorney's Office, and the Civilian Review Board members themselves who've stepped forward to serve Columbus. We had a public hearing last week on this topic, a discussion that focused on creating this new institution in our city, whose goal is to bring additional trust, transparency, and accountability to public safety, which also has a key focus on fairness for both residents and our officers. I appreciate working with you and everyone that you've just mentioned, including the members of the Community Safety Advisory Commission that released their report back in January of 2020, calling for such a body. Through the voters approving the charter amendment by 74% at the ballot box last November, we started this process here over the past 4 or 5 months. As we've discussed, what the charter amendment did was to enshrine in our city's constitution the Civilian Review Board, so that no council, no mayor could defund or revoke the Civilian Review Board without first going back to the voters. However, that amendment, as you mentioned, Council President, only laid the foundation of the Civilian Review Board. Tonight's legislation puts in place more specifics on their duties, operations, training requirements for board members themselves, which include ride-alongs with police officers, instruction on constitutional law, police tactics, and enhances its reporting obligations to council and the community on its investigations, on recommendations of both potential discipline, but also just as importantly, improvements that we can make as a city on public safety matters. As you said, this has been a long journey and an important one for our city, one that I am hopeful will help move our community forward on public safety and make everyone in Columbus safer. So thank you, Council President. I appreciate being part of this process and helping to work with you and everyone at council and administration on this effort. With that, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? I'd like to put forward a motion to remove this ordinance from the table.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorrance, Faber, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Remove from the table. I move to amend as submitted to the clerk.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorrance, Faber, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Amended. I move for passage. Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorrance, Faber, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Pass. And I was just joking. There's one more ordinance in rules and reference. It is 1936-2021. It's to amend section 111.12 of the Columbus City Code to update the process for speaking before council and to declare an emergency. During COVID, we heard from many residents that filling out speaker slips electronically was much easier than doing so by hand immediately prior to council. In order to create an easier system for residents, we're changing city code to allow residents to fill out speaker slips electronically until up to 3 p.m. on the day of the regular council meeting. Any comments or questions from my colleagues? With that, I move for passage.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorrance, Faber, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Seeing no further business to come before council, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Dorrance, Faber, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
2 non-agenda speakers, Ms. Pam Unger is not here, and Mr. Nate Wilkins.
Can you hear me? You see me? My name is Mr. Wilkins.